let's start with your introduction.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for the introduction. This is not kind words. My name is Dylan. I'm the new or first marketing executive and community manager at Ugenie. Firstly, I'd say thank you for having me here, and I'm excited to learn actually about all your businesses and all your communities. My role, it will be primarily revolved around listening to your businesses on what they're about, your story or ambitions, and using that to create resources and the right information for your communities to grow and evolve on the Ugenie platform. But on top of that, the second thing is, which is really important for your members, is to gather feedback on your experience with the platform, but also your members' experience on the platform, and through that, we'll continually try to improve the Ugenie product. In terms of general, like why I joined Ugenie, I have a real interest in communities. I believe they can bring people together and allow people to cooperate with one another. So I hope within your businesses, you're finding ways for your members to work together. I think it's really important. And on top of that, I think through that process, your members themselves can generate new ideas and find better ways of working together. So that's a short introduction. I look forward to learning more about your businesses. Thank you, and I hope we can all connect after, and we can hopefully learn about each of your businesses in more depth. So thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. And what Dylan is going to do is he's going to connect with all of you guys on LinkedIn or the various other social media platforms. He will follow your platforms as well from a Ugenie perspective, and we will share more of the things that you guys are up to and across our channels as they continue to grow. The other thing that we're going to be launching is a community-focused podcast where we'd love to feature all of you guys. So for anybody who'd like to be part of that podcast that we're launching in the future. So what I'll do is I'll introduce you all to Dylan one-to-one, give a little bit of context to your communities. He'll be asking you guys for 20 to 30 minutes of your time where he can get some feedback. He can also interview you. So then again, we can feature you more across our channels. We really want to start growing the support that we give our customers and our clients on social as well to help promote the various things that you're up to. So with that, let's just do a quick round of intros. We've got a couple of new faces here today with us. Heather, shall we start with you?
Sure, thanks, Susan. Lovely to see everybody. I'm Heather Barry. I'm a connection alchemist. I've got a couple of businesses. I have a coffee business, but why we're here with Ugenie is that I run my Business Links Cafe with my business partner, Richard. We are an online business support organization for growing owner-run businesses. So they've done the startup, they're not yet scaling, but that sense of community is really important, and we base that around links, which is learning, impact, networking, collaboration, and support. But all of that is totally involved with being part of a community. It's what brings people to our business, and it's what keeps people in there. And we're awesome, of course. But so Ugenie is very integral to our business, and community is as well.
Thank you. Ian?
I run an organisation as a business manager. It's BARC. It's the British Association of Construction Heads. And these are the people who lead construction and further education colleges. So it's quite a niche market. We have about 120 members and they're growing quite fast, but it will not get up beyond about 180 most probably, because then we will have them all. So that's it really. We're new to Ugenie.
Thank you, Ian. And Scott, you've just popped up on camera, so I'm going to go to you next. Scott comes over from the US, and so Scott, why don't we have you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I feel like I have to have a brogue over here or something. Good morning. Yes, so I run companies for Net Zero. We started 2 years ago. We have 85 members currently, a lot of sponsors. Our mission is to mitigate carbon emissions and solid waste in the US. Ian, it's interesting. We had a sustainable construction meeting just last week talking about concrete. So it's interesting to hear your group. Yeah, we're really excited to use Ugenie. My son, who's 19, is helping me, Finley, and he's an engineer at RPI studying material engineering. So we look forward to joining the community and growing it. Thank you.
Scott, I really need to connect you to David Reed, who is not here with us today, but runs Fuel Change in Scotland. And it's a apprenticeship program for young people to work on climate change challenges. They have like 1,000 kids that go through the program at any given time, but they're also working with the Scottish government. So it might be a very good connection for you in terms of.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sean, why don't we move to you next?
Hi. Hello, everybody. Lovely to see and meet you all. My name's Sian Murphy. I host events for women in business. Part of that is through a community interest company. I'm also the host of the Women in Business radio show. So my events are largely running at the moment in Kent. They're big venues, and we have affordable exhibiting for women in business. So without all the sort of stress of, a £2,000 stand, but still with the benefits of having a lot of exhibitors there.
Great. And
I want to mention what I'm doing with my community. No, okay. I also run a lot of much smaller monthly events. And so I have an awful lot of exhibitors, and sometimes communicating with them all is becoming, well, from my point of view, sometimes a right pain. But also it dawned on me a little while ago that all of these exhibitors, they themselves started referring to it as our community of exhibitors. And that sort of led me onwards. I thought, actually, they are a community. And so I've set up a community.
Yes. And Sean runs, in non-COVID times, obviously 52 or something events a year, right? So it's very, very, there's a lot going on over there.
Yeah, it's probably a few more than that. So some of them, as I say, are smaller monthly events where I may have 30 exhibitors, and then I have the annual event. So I have the Women in Business Big Show and Women Fab After 50, where they're much, much larger events. But I do run all of them out of academies, so they all run out of big venues. I'm not running out of church halls or anything like that. They're big venues, loads of parking. I run a cafe at each event as well. I run something called Cafe in the Calm, which is a bit of a nod to mental wellness rather more than mental health. Mental wellness, relaxation, not panicking, keeping things in perspective, bit of adult colouring, really good coffee, some decent cakes, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Kate, how about we move to you next?
Hi, thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. My name's Kate. So I'm a marketing consultant. I own my own digital media consultancy, and I'm running a community on behalf of one of my clients. It's been built out of a global C-suite talent acquisition firm, Miramar Global, and they've developed a network called the Leading Minds Network. That is a peer-to-peer learning and development network. So it's a private network for leadership across lots of different industries. So oil and gas, big tech, automotive, those types of fields, for those leaders to come together and share their experiences and learn from each other. It's global. So we have members from the kind of main, I suppose, business hubs. So North America, Singapore, London, quite a few out of Frankfurt, that sort of thing. And it's really something that developed since COVID hit, where Miramar was struggling to get information to their clients that would help them transact their business. It's event-based, so there's an event each quarter, which is the learning element. And what we're trying to do with the community is keep the conversation going between events. I think that's the main strategy, and see how we can build that sense of community in what could be quite a lonely space up there at the top in leadership. So we launched maybe a month ago, and we ran our first event about 10 days ago. So I'm just in the process now of trying to maintain engagement post-event. So that's exactly where we are right now. Thanks.
Great. Well, we'll definitely need to get you up on this stage in a month or two where we can learn from your learnings, hopefully, and see how that goes. I'll come back to you later today on your email. So it's been a back-to-back today, but I will get back to you today. So awesome. So now we're going to move on to the team that we're featuring today. Let's start with Gemma, who is, I think, definitely, there she is. Would you want to just do a quick introduction before we go into the Q&A with John and Paul?
Yeah, hi there. Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. It looks like the sun is shining where you are. I hope it is. It is here.
This is artificial lighting. It is not.
Okay. I've got some coming in here. You might see it.
Yeah.
So I work alongside John Kelly and Paul Barber, who will be presenting the Connected Salesperson today. I work in a support capacity for the guys and doing all sorts of virtual administration and anything they need, their marketing needs, that kind of thing. So that's my take on it. I'll let the guys fill you in on the rest of it. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much. I mean, you know, it's always great to meet the full teams, right, that we're running these communities, because a lot of communities actually take a team of people to run. Online communities are difficult. You know, that's probably, we'll talk to you, you know, John and Paul, I want you guys to introduce yourselves very shortly. We're having one more person join us just now. So I'm going to go ahead and let Tiaba also introduce herself to everyone. You'll have to watch the replay to see who else is in the room today, but let's go ahead and Tiaba, before we jump into Paul and John's Q&A. And at the end, I will also dig into one of our features. So, you know, based on actually a great recommendation from Ian, at every one of these calls going forward, we are going to do a deep dive into one of Ugenie's features so that you guys can really understand how to use the platform to the best of its ability. And I'll also then at that point today share some roadmap of some new things that are coming. But Tiaba, please introduce yourself and welcome.
Hi, I'm really sorry that I'm so late. I just got caught in child pickup things and I thought I should be here by now, but I'm not, so I apologize for that. But to introduce myself, my name's Tiaba Jordan. I am a health and wellness coach in the corporate world. I started about 6 years ago. My business has gone from domestic to corporate, mainly working with CEOs and leaders and now their teams. And the Ugenie app has been a real aid to helping the current clients that I'm with, but also just kind of diversifying a bit now to allow individuals to create communities where they can talk to each other and share tips and advice. It's probably been the most useful thing. We relaunched again in March, and we've got a great promo for the app now as well, and I think it's starting to find its place in amongst some of the clients that I work with, mainly in the financial world. So that's me. I'm really happy to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see you too. So let's jump into Paul and John today, who are going to talk to us about the Connected Salesperson. You know, I think they're also experts in sales. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that people will want to ask you guys toward the end that will have nothing to do with Ugenie. And I'll leave it to your discretion of how detailed we want to get into that, because also I'd probably want to learn from you too. But let's have you guys both introduce yourselves first. I'm going to go ahead and put the into speaker view for myself, as we're having this conversation. So John, shall we start with you, and then we can have Paul introduce himself, and then we'll go into some of the Q&A and some things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, sure. I suppose I've come from a background of being a salesperson, right from being a sales rep up to being a sales and marketing director, and then leaving that to become a trainer of sales people, and then a trainer of sales leadership. And then moving on, progressing into a journey into saying, no, I'm fed up with all of this selling stuff. I want to help transform people's lives and organizations' lives. And this selling stuff is just a bit of fluff and nonsense, let's call it. So moved into the whole transformation space of coaching and wellness and helping people on their spiritual path. And people kept asking me to do sales training, and I couldn't get away from sales training no matter how hard I tried. And then I settled into myself and into my thinking and realized, you know what, maybe I'm being asked to do sales training, but do it from this perspective of helping people understand more about themselves. And that then led to the concept of, well, if they become connected to who they really are, then maybe they can start to connect with who their customer really is. And out of that then grew this concept of, well, let's just call it the connected salesperson. It was a bright idea, at least I felt it was a bright idea that came to me one day walking the dog in the woods. So I moved from being a salesperson, being a sales and marketing director, being a sales trainer, trying to get away from sales, and I'm now into helping people understand that selling is very, very simply a matter of connection and helping. And I want to spread that message to as many different types of people and different types of sales industries as I can. Having worked in the food and drink industry, I want to send that message to other industries as well.
Great. Well, how did you, if we move on to Paul's introduction, how did you guys meet? And then we can get Paul to introduce himself as well. So how did you guys, create this dynamic duo?
It started in a bar in Berlin, as the story goes. I was in corporate life for 20 years and working in sales roles, leading sales teams across different geographies. And I was at a conference where I was speaking, and I was at the bar speaking to somebody who was I didn't know they knew John. And I shared with them that my vision that I was possibly thinking of leaving corporate life and getting into a new area of coaching and training and different things. And they just said, you should speak to John Kelly. And I went, okay. I didn't know who John was. We'd never met before. And then something happened within a few months of that. I met somebody else and I shared the same story, obviously confidentially. And they said, you should speak to John Kelly. So I said, who is this John Kelly? I need to have a cup of coffee. And that was a cup of coffee. I'm sure, John, that was several years ago, I'm sure. 7 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
6.5, 7 years ago. So I left corporate life and I trained to be an executive and team coach. And that's what I do day in, day out. And because of my background in sales, but like John, we keep on getting work in sales. And I guess the question is, for us, is basically the more you learn about coaching and what coaching is, and you look at the relationship to selling, there was something special in that idea of, connecting with people very, very deeply, being the essence of great selling. And that's what attracted us. And John, I think you said you're walking the dog. I think you sent me a WhatsApp that morning while you're walking the dog saying, here's my idea. And it sparked a number of WhatsApp type exchanges, which led to why we're here today. So, and we didn't have Gemma here today because Gemma holds us all together. So.
Yeah. The backbone of the community, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you might say, Susan, about you needing somebody to run a community, you certainly need somebody like Gemma to set up a community and get the IT right and all of that goes with it. So
definitely. I mean, it's not easy. We're trying to make it as easy as possible and trying to bring that all into one place, but there's always someone who is the backbone of every community. And that's Gemma for you guys, for sure. Well, why don't we talk about sales and the community model, right? We hear a lot of the people today now hiring a head of community or a community management team. And really the idea there is kind of converting that sales customer service into a community model, right? You have your community of exhibitors. You guys have a community. Why did you choose to go down the path of building a community versus just selling, e-learning? You could be selling courses online. I know you guys are doing that as well, but what about the community model attracted you, and from a sales perspective? Why did you choose that? Did we start with you, John, on that?
Yeah, look at that. I suppose after I started the community model, I kind of got a validation. I would do a bit of reading in the spiritual world, and a Buddhist monk called Thich Nhat Hanh said, growing community is the greatest thing you can do in your life. So that sort of validated what we were at. So why community? We were having discussions about the number of people that we have trained in FXL. And I remember meeting one of my ex-trainees at a social function. And she said, this must be brilliant for you to see so many people that you have trained. And I never thought of that way, that we were actually building a community of people that we had been training, but we weren't keeping in touch with them. And in some respects, we weren't even leveraging that asset that we had, that people who actually felt they had learned a lot from us. So we look, well, how can we have a situation, or how can we bring people together in such a way that they can learn from each other, they can learn from us, they can stay in touch in an informal way, as well as providing a platform that would help them grow, as well as providing us with income that would come through from all of the knowledge that we have that we could put out on a community platform somewhere. And share that knowledge with more and more and more people, and also share it more widely. So I think COVID really did open up to us the opportunity for a worldwide audience for what we do. Initially, I think Thinkific was a big platform that we were going to look at to see, do we do programs online, and as you mentioned, an e-seller, and it just didn't quite do it for us. And if you ask me, I was actually thinking, how did I end up with Ugenie? And I suppose in the same way that Paul Barber ended up with me, something happened, or somebody said something, and I think you might have sent out a LinkedIn request for connection somewhere along the lines. We do put a lot of trust in the universe to sort this whole situation out, and something happened that ended up that I found out about Ugenie, Susan, and then you and I had a conversation. So the brilliance of the connected salesperson came to mind first, and then, well, how do we sort that out? And then Ugenie came very, very quickly after it.
Yeah. So just the right time in the right place, right?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, fate is throwing this thing together.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about maybe your successes and your challenges, right, in community, and what you can share with everyone else who I'm sure has some of the similar challenges. I know you guys are working to launch this, and you've had some early people into the community, but can you talk to us a little bit about, where you guys are at with the community, what part of the journey, and also feel free to incorporate the types of things that the rest of the community can help you with. So how else can we potentially help you with where you guys are at and where your potential challenges are at the moment? So let's start with success, but then let's also talk about any challenges and how we can help.
I'm happy to, John, just like success. We've had a number of monthly calls where we invite people along, and I guess the numbers that they are small still, but the dialogue is not small in terms of what we're talking about and what's happening in those calls. So I think I can see Gemma shaking her head there, agreeing. So it's just really wonderful. That was one of our things we had to start. That would be like a center point each month. We'd get together for an hour, and just some really wonderful conversations and lovely feedback from people about those conversations. And they are going a little bit deeper beyond what really is sales, what is the essence of sales. So for me, that's probably the highlight of what we've been doing so far. And that John building that.
I would agree that it is the highlight. The launching of the community as well has been a success. How the app looks and where our content sits on the app, and whenever you show the app to somebody, they are wowed by the app. So that marriage, if you like, of what we're doing, what we're saying, and what we're able to do with Ugenie, that's been successful. As Paul said, the monthly calls, but not just the monthly calls. I mean, one of our other colleagues who had spent some time in the coaching world and the IT world, on the first call, he was watching the salespeople listening to myself and Paul dialogue, and he said they were getting it. They were really getting it. So that was a success. So the message that we have is a success. How we're putting across the message is a success. Getting it to more people is a success that's yet to come.
Yes.
And that's
so I'm sensing a little bit that potentially one of the challenges is that maybe getting more members, getting engagement. I mean, generally we can break these things down into a couple of things, right? Getting new members, but also getting current members to engage. So, where do you guys feel your kind of biggest challenges at the moment? And again, please feel free to share how we might be able to help.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is we have challenges in getting new members, yes, and we have challenges in getting engagement. We also have challenges in learning how to drive the Ferrari that we've bought into, as opposed to sort of using it as a bit of a push bike at the minute. But that's growing, and every time we have a conversation with yourself, Susan, that gets even better. So the challenge is the new members. Our original marketing idea of direct emailing to people that we already have a relationship with in a kind of a mass email, that wasn't as successful as we would have liked. And what we're finding is successful is a more direct mail to more senior people that we know. And we're starting, I suppose, to grow membership one at a time, or two at a time. We do have hopes with some clients that it might be several dozen at a time if they can bring in their salespeople, but that takes a bit longer. So the challenge is definitely getting the new members. I mean, at the minute our membership numbers are sitting in the early 20s, and about half of those are paying. The potential for going higher than that is enormous. I actually marvel at Ian's number. Ian's hitting about 2/3 of his potential earlier on. You know, if we could get to 10% of our potential, we wouldn't be here. We'd be dialing in from the Bahamas or something like that.
One of the things, John, just on that, there's that we've done a few different business proposals recently, and we've actually included within those. Now they're still, I think we're meeting one client on Friday in person, but we've included within these business proposals, they're on commercial type training activities. And we've included membership to the connected salesperson as corporate membership for X number of staff. Like, so one of those things coming off could be quite big.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's another part of what we're working on at the minute, is trying to get those corporate type buy-ins to what we're doing. But at the minute, until that happens, we're one by one, person by person type thing.
So Paul, I'll address this question to you that might be relevant to everyone, right? And it isn't relevant to Ugenie per se, but how have you seen sales and the whole kind of sales journey change? You know, it's obviously changed with digital in general over the last few years, but what are the trends that you're noticing since the pandemic hit now, you know, that is affecting sales across the board for everyone? Is anything you can share with us on your observations?
Well, across the pandemic, really interesting. I was working with a client this morning and I was interviewing different people in this client for this piece of work we're doing. And it was a big retailer and a big supplier, effectively. And there's a belief that some people, I know John and I would do one-to-one coaching work. We know it can work as effectively in a virtual space, but there's still a lot of clients who believe that it cannot be as effective in a virtual space. So this particular client, those new people coming together, and they haven't really met each other yet physically, whereas in the past they would have. And they, to a person, they all nearly believe that the relationship is not what it used to be, or not as strong as it could be, because they're lacking that physical contact. Mm-hmm. And these are clients across two different geographies, but normally would, you know, fly over and meet each other. And I guess it's really interesting because I know from a coaching psychology point of view that we know from one-to-one type interaction, it can be as powerful in the virtual world as it is in the physical world. Mm-hmm. Yet we've anecdotally with clients saying to us, you know, we don't believe our relationship is as strong. And part of me is reflecting work that John and I do when we get people in their room virtually. We do get people to connect really deeply. I'm just curious, you know, are they not doing that sort of work virtually? Yeah. Where they haven't been connecting deeply? You know, is it a belief that they have? Because I think it's actually possible. I think it's possible, and the evidence is, I think it's possible from what we've been doing. Yeah. So I think there's a belief out there that it isn't as powerful, and there's people probably rushing to get back. And John and I next week are traveling for the first time, and I don't know, a little bit nervously probably, for work. You know, and you're going, but it's a real belief that the client has, you know, what we need to be in the room together for this to be really, really effective. And I'm not totally sure that's true. I know it helps. I'm not totally sure that's true.
Well, it'll be interesting for you guys also to share with us over the next few months that, you know, some of these corporate clients you're talking to, if you get in the room with them, you know, does that contract actually get signed a bit faster? And we can, you know, learn from you guys as well. I mean, of course, we're all building online communities during the pandemic. Ian, we'll definitely have to get you up on center stage at some stage as well, because it sounds like you're about to get everybody that's relevant to your membership into your membership at some stage soon. So, you know, keep us posted, and, you know, we should all, again, learn from each other. You know, Heather's community is also very using Zoom quite effectively to build really long lasting relationships, and again, focusing on building those on a week-to-week basis. So, you know, we make sure to watch her session from last time, but that's what she was talking about. They have weekly sessions, actually, that they're Zooming. And that's one thing I'll share across all of our communities when I'm talking to everybody individually. Those meaningful conversations that you're building on Zoom, and as you guys are talking about, they're definitely there. I think maybe the bigger challenge is that there's so much, before someone buys into a membership, there's so many opportunities to jump, you know, try different things. How do we build those relationships before someone has bought into the membership? And that obviously that's something I think we're all still, you know, trying to tackle. But I agree. I think virtually, you know, I've not met most of you, and I think that we have decent relationships, if not good ones, hopefully. But yeah, so John and Ian will definitely come to your question as well, or comment or statement. John, what about you? What do you think, you know, in terms of, I know we're building a virtual community here and whatnot, but have you, do you feel it would be stronger if you could meet people in real life, or what's your thoughts on the same question?
Yeah, I think the point that Paul made is extremely valid, and what my interpretation of what Paul is saying is that if you believe something is really important, that if you put the time and the energy and the focus into that thing that you think is really important, it will pay dividends. So, and if you have a belief that you cannot create connection online because you're not meeting personally, then you're also going to kind of manifest that as well, and won't even put the time and the effort into it. It's kind of one of the most heartrending phrases I heard from a trainee was, well, that's the way it is. And this was in relation to her relationship with her buyers, but that's the way it is. And I'm thinking that's always the way it is until it's not the way it is. And if you don't like it the way it is, then make it something different. So in other words, be conscious of what it is you're trying to achieve. And as I've said, if you put the time and the effort and the energy into it, and this is something, I mean, Adele spoke at the very first session that I'd heard, and the time and energy and effort that she puts into building that community is what makes her community work. Yeah. And we recognize that we have got great ideas, and we need to devote the time and the energy and the effort into it. But part of the reason in our defense is that people keep coming and giving us other monies to do other work. So guess what? You know, we're going to get paid tomorrow as opposed to getting paid in next month. And we'll take the bird in the hand at the minute, but we are conscious of looking out for the future as well. And that's why we're very confident that it'll continue. It will work because everything is there to make it work.
Definitely. I think it takes time, especially because competition is more fierce now for every industry and every space, because there's so many more opportunities, right, online. So we're all navigating that. Paul, let's go to your top tip, if from what you've learned over the last, working on the community and the successes, and then John, yours, and then we'll move to Ian. Ian had raised his hand, so we'll see what he'd like to say if anybody else has any questions, and then I will dig into the deep dive of the feature. But yeah, why don't we start with you, Paul? Any top tip that you'd like to give on terms of, someone starting a community or where you're at in your journey?
I think my word would be patience. And I had an experience last week where a couple of things happened in the same week. It was I've been involved in co-authoring a book in the last couple of years, and we asked the publishers, is there anything we're not doing that's, are we missing some big trick that, just catapults everything overnight? And they said, no, this is bit by bit, small bit by bit by bit. And then we had a session last week with a webinar, and right after that event, 2 people signed up right after that event. And it just reminded me that bit by bit by bits, real patience. And whenever you think it's not working, just to be very, very calm and to believe in what we're doing and believe in each other. And that's the piece for me. So it's just a patience, confidence. Obviously you have to have a strategy, you have to have a plan, all those great things. And it has to be something people want to buy into. But I would say patience and just keep at it, and small wins. And if you look after the small wins, the big wins will come in time.
I think that, yeah, definitely. I would 100% agree with that. John, what about you?
Yeah, what I'd say is trust your gut and trust your instinct, but do not be afraid to get help and get support and listen to what others have done. That would be a top tip, not just for growing community, but in life in general. And do the best you can at being yourself. If you also recognize that the success or your all rightness, as I like to talk about it, is not dependent on you getting X thousand members by a certain date. You're more likely to get X thousand members by a certain date if you recognize your all rightness isn't dependent on it.
Yeah, I mean, on the number of size, and this is also just, if we take a look at Ugenie as well, right? Everyone would have said to you 18 months ago, maybe even today, well, just set up a Facebook group or just set up a LinkedIn group, right? And those are the kind of go-to ways of community today until they're not. So Ugenie and Mighty Networks and Circle and all these platforms that are trying to pave this community 2.0, which is what we're trying to create. That's we're building community 2.0. It's next, hopefully in the next 18 months, it'll be, well, just build a Ugenie group, right? So it's, the mindsets change over time. It takes time. And I think a lot of people are been thrown into digital over the last 18 months that weren't ready for it potentially. So we're still all trying to navigate that space. But thank you, John and Paul, so much today. Ian, you had raised your hand. I didn't know if it was a point.
Yeah, just on what you were saying. I found that, in the past, you'd go and visit somebody, it would be a day out of the office, particularly if you live in Norwich or somewhere on the out, away. So you're always traveling. But obviously we had to change last year, just like everybody else, in the way we worked. And what I've found has been really successful is, in the past, we used to talk to one person in an organization. If they didn't join, then we didn't get them. Where now we're talking to apprenticeship managers, curriculum managers, vice principals. We're talking, and across, it doesn't matter on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, we're talking to them. We're getting, so that somebody in the end says, we ought to be a member. And that's been, a real change in doubling the membership in the last year or so, because you've got more time because you're not spending it in a car or on a train, so we just had to talk to more people. And I think, that's the same as being in a community. If you just got more ways of talking to more people. And I think, that's a success in a way.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, there's more opportunity to talk to more stakeholders in the same, just like Paul, 2 people set to him to talk to John, and then there you go, this business was born. So definitely when you hear something more than once. And we live in this is a challenge I think that we all face, right? Getting customers, no matter what the business is that it's a very, very noisy world now. It's much more digital, lots of notifications pinging, which is one of the reasons why I know many of you have chosen to have the app version, right? So there's just a lot more noise out there. Part of what Dylan will be sharing with you going forward, we're going to try to create 2 monthly newsletters on a consistent basis, which start also sharing more industry insight of what's going on within, memberships and best practices, but also what's going on in the world of social media platforms as well. Because although Ugenie isn't social media, a lot of our end users or your members are very comfortable with these platforms. So we want to make sure that you're understanding as well, if you're not a big social media user, what are the trends? And if you have any questions about any specific platforms, any specific things, please do send them our way, and we will try to make those newsletters super useful for you. We'll also be adding all of that into the Ugenie community that we've invited all of you to be a part of. So the other element as well is, John and Paul, please send us your details for your next, for your free next guest, where someone can come and join you. I know Heather will be sharing yours this week, as you've got an event coming up next week. So that's the other thing, that if any of you guys have, and I'm going to jump into the feature, micro feature today, which is going to be about different levels of membership and potentially how to create a guest membership in your community to allow people to taste the membership before they have to buy. And I'll wrap that into something that we're developing, which will take us a few more months as payments finishes. We'll be able to do this, is building you guys a public landing page. Now, I know most of you have your own websites, and we won't be able to obviously bespoke build this for everyone. But the concept being that a guest member, and this will be optional, can experience a little bit of what you have to offer without creating a Ugenie account. Because sometimes we feel like the barrier might be that someone is not ready yet to create an account. I'll be talking to you guys more about this as this becomes more real and getting feedback from you. But potentially, again, a space for you to create that community that you connect to your own website that allows people to get a little bit of taste of what you have on offer. So, again, I'll send out Dylan when he has the one-to-ones with you. He'll ask you a little bit more about this as well and how valuable this feature could be for you. But we've been asked by a lot of people in the past to say, can you just build us something people can test? And then we can use, again, as an upsell as well, right? Where you show something that isn't available to a non-logged in member or a non-guest, proper guest, and have them then upsell into the membership. So we are working on this functionality for you.